You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
And welcome to The Mountain Gardener. This is your host, Ken Lane. We're here every week talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona. Oh, it's been so beautiful. I think there were some clouds this week. That's encouraging. I don't see the monsoonal pattern yet. It's still way further east from us, but it is going to come in July sometime. It's just a matter of time. This is a great time to be planting, though. A lot of folks get confused. It's like they don't know when to plant, no matter what time of the year. If it's spring, can I plant now? In the summer, can I plant now? In the winter, can I plant now? In the mountains of Arizona, at least in the central highlands, this is Payson to Prescott Valley to Kingman, Sedona, Cottonwood, the higher elevations, White Mountains, the higher elevations, Williams, Flagstaff. Maybe you all get a freeze. The ground actually freezes solid. Didn't happen this year, but many years it does. But if you can dig a hole in the ground, you can plant just fine. It never gets so cold that we can't plant. It can be mucky and weather. The snow takes 2 days to melt before we can go back and plant. And yes, the heat, we have to be really careful with making sure we water correctly. We don't put a dry plant into a dry hole. But if we water the hole and we hydrate the plant as we're done planting, it thrives. Actually, things take off because the soil is so warm that the plants just go, oh, look at this. Something's going on. We're just going to root right here. One thing I do want to mention, I've had quite a number of customers this week come in, and they were planting in raised beds and containers. So there's just a disproportionate number of, at least people I was helping here at Waters Garden Center. This isn't everywhere, but right here, they didn't know what soil to use. So can I just take a moment and explain what you see when you go up to that huge wall of soils, bagged goods at your big Depot or Lowe's or big Mart thing? It can be overwhelming. There are basically only 4 products. Well, maybe 5 products. One of them is bark. They've got shredded bark. They got bark chips. They got bark. It's bark. Okay, that's covered. Bark is bark. Oh, there's rubber bark made of used tires. And they color it. I like using organic bark because it breaks down and helps to feed my plants. The basic thing is put bark on the top of your new planting bed to keep the sun off of the soil so it doesn't roast or bake your roots. It holds the moisture and keeps the weeds out. That's one product. The other one is going to be manures of some sorts. Basically, it's going to be cow poop in a bag. We happen to sell here at Waters, we carry a deodorized poop. It's barnyard mix. It's what's in the barnyard plus their bedding, and it holds the moisture in, and we compost it longer. It's not as raw. You can actually stick your hand in it. You're not going to go, ooh, yuck, gross. Whereas a lot of the poop you will. But basically there's manures. We want to add some nitrogen to the soil and bring the soil back to life. We're not using a lot of manures right now. That was done mainly getting the beds ready to plant. You never add manure into a planting soil around, let's say, a tree or a shrub or mainly we're doing a vegetable bed or a flower bed, getting the soil ready. Then we start plugging plants after that. Okay, so that's 2, bark, manure. There is mulch or compost. That's going to be basically organic compost. It's composted mulch, basically. It's a woody, rich, dark mocha looking thing. Those are made actually to add to your native soil. So we create we call it premium mulch. It's a locally sourced wood product that is screened down under a half an inch or minus. It's very fine. It's made to amend your native soil so that native soil doesn't compact right back down to rock hard. It keeps it aerated so the roots can root out from its current root ball into the surrounding soil. It's made for new plantings, basically. Then you've got topsoil. Basically, mulch is kind of a lightweight product. What we do is we add about 20% sand to our mulch, and it weights it down. It's usually the heaviest product in all the bag goods because it's mostly sand and some organic composted compost. But it's made to top dress, thus the name topsoil, and it won't blow away. Even on the windiest of spots, it's heavy enough to stay there. We'll take it out. Let's say if our planting crew was going to put a new spruce tree or fruit trees or screening hedgerow, whatever it is, and we knew you were on a ridge line, we might bring some extra topsoil to fill in the holes. Or if we run into a huge boulder, we've got to have a jackhammer to peck this thing out or roll it out with a digging bar. We need some more filler. We'll use topsoil to help fill or add some weight. Just kind of bring the soil back to level, okay? Fills in the holes without it blowing away. I don't like planting in topsoil because it's just too heavy and it's too wet and it doesn't drain well enough. For that, if you're going to plant directly in it, the last product is potting soil. Potting soil is where the science is. There's actually recipes for certain types of potting soil. So our growers years ago made our waters potting soil for here. It's got a balanced amount of some compost, mainly peat moss. It's got a little bit of perlite, 555 organic fertilizer. And so it's made to fill up a container, fill your raised bed, and plant directly in it and water it, and the plant will just take off and thrive. A good potting soil will look exactly like what your plant, whatever you buy at the nursery. If you can get that soil that plant was grown in into your container and just have more of it, have more access, that plant would never know it was in a different kind of soil. It would just root out and go, oh, this is great. Look, I can really spread out now and grow. So that's really ideal. That's the best of the soils, typically the more expensive of the soils. Manures are typically less expensive. Topsoils and mulches are less expensive. The potting soil is more expensive. And sometimes bark, depending on where it is and what it is, can be expensive. Sometimes you'll see cocoa bark made from Hershey's chocolate bars, basically chocolate hulls. They bring them out. I tried selling that years ago. It was rather expensive, but it smelled so good. What I found was it just brought the pack rats like crazy. They loved it. I went, oh, there's an idea that backfired. I was going to be all original, fill up an entire semi, and it'd be coming in from the Hershey plant, and I'll just take 20 pallets every month. And I sold one pallet, one truckload, and went, okay, no more. That backfired. I really like cedar bark. The reason I like it smells good. It smells like cedar. It's a red color generally, and cedar has a repelling action. It actually repels bad bugs. The oils in it they don't like, and so it keeps them away. So I find it very helpful when I'm planting new herbs, new flower beds. Anytime I'm planting something new, I create a little shredded cedar bark circle around it just to keep the weeds out, hold the moisture in, and I find it looks good, smells good, gives those plants the best chance they can. What else? I was going to mention one other thing. Oh, here we go. I was doing some planting. Make sure that when you dig your hole out for a new shrub or tree, perfectly fine. I know it feels like it might be getting summer, but you're perfectly fine to plant now. The secret is don't plant a dry plant in dry, crusty soil. The soils are very dry. At least in my yard, they were very dry. So I dug my hole. I got my soil off to the side. I blended some mulch in with that soil because I want to add some organic matter to that native earth. I filled that digging, the hole I dug, I filled it halfway up with water. And so I was almost putting my plant in this mucky, watery planting hole. But I wasn't doing that for the plant. What I was doing is I was trying to hydrate the soil around the root ball where I'm planting this plant. Then after I did all that, I positioned, backfilled all this mulch, added some Waters all-purpose plant food around it, and then I watered it in. Then I watered the actual plant, and the backfill that I put that water. But at first, here's the secret. Here's the go-to. Add some water, hydrate the whole before you put the plant in. You'll find your success rate skyrockets when you take that technique to heart. Be right back.
You're listening to local garden expert Ken Lane, also known as the Mountain Gardener. Ken can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Listen each week as he answers timely garden questions unique to mountain landscapes.
Hi, Lisa with the plants of the week and our instant Raywood ash.
Raywoods are known for their handsome fall foliage that turns colors of red to royal purple. Just stunning.
The leaves have a fine texture which add a softness to harsh rock yard.
At $120, these instant trees are magnificent. 12 feet tall with a 6-foot spread. You won't have to wait for this tree to grow up.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love instant trees, they love to shop. In a new place, it's difficult to know who to trust, how to get help at the house, and which nursery will simply do what they say they'll do.
At Waters Garden Center, we're here to help, in the landscape at least.
Our team of plant ambassadors know your neighborhood, the plants that add color, increase privacy, and add fragrance and beauty.
And we can show you exactly how to plant locally, or we have teams to do all the work for you.
We are Ken and Lisa Lane, and we guarantee our plants will live up to every promise here at Waters Garden Center.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
All right, we are back with my favorite segment. We have Lisa Waters Lane in the studio. She brings your garden questions, my favorite garden gal. We've done a lot of gardening together this year. So lots of pots, lots of the whole new backyard. Just looks good. I think sometimes you need to remodel.
Oh, definitely.
Add some freshness, especially if there's some crusty, dead, ugly things.
Yeah.
Ugly things bring you down, whether it's a huge wart on your face,
stop.
boil on your butt, or a dead plant in your yard. You shouldn't have those. It's too easy to slip them out and put a fresh new thing. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes, like we had a neighbor that cut back their junipers. These have like 6-inch trunks on them. They were over, 7-8 feet tall. They cut them back to hip high, and now they're butchered. They should have just been pulled out of the ground and started over with fresh, new, vibrant, young plants, not crusty, old. They'll take years if they ever recover. They just have these stubs that come up. I don't think they'll ever look good again. I think you need to be, every year you should add about 10%. That's my flavor, my calculate. About 10% of your yard should be new plants. You should always rotate. So every 10 years, you're rotating some brand new plants. So you never have the same aged plants throughout your entire landscape. Yeah. And so it makes a difference. And we did that this year.
We did. We changed quite a few things in the back. It's it's pretty. We're trying to go more xeriscape, so drought hardy, survive on your own. But it's still very, very pretty back there.
Yeah, you can have beautiful and low maintenance, low care, low water. You can have both. You just have to be more strategic. And our thing was the irrigation clock broke down this winter and killed off about 25% of the plants. We went, they were wimps anyway. Can't survive without water in the winter. You don't belong. Replaced them with things like rock roses, all kinds of native-y yuccas, agaves, Mediterranean carpet, cacti. We're playing with cactus. The rock rose I put in the front raised bed. Looks really good. I did. You want it in the back, but there was a perfect spot.
Oh, that's fine.
In the front.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be beautiful there. You're always surprising me where you put things. And
I'm
like,
here.
What'd you do with that?
That's why you married me, just to surprise you all the time.
Oh, how sweet, dear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We better get to our questions.
Okay.
Before we
go down that path too far.
So Don from Prescott has had a desert willow in their yard for 3 years.
Okay.
It bloomed the first year and has not bloomed since. What do they need to do to get it to bloom?
Well, food. It's a youngster, So it could have been thrown into a rocky soil that it's just not happy, but it lived for 3 years. So it means it's established, it's going. So I'm putting money. I just put money. If you really analyze what they're feeding that plant with, it's starving to death. It literally is starving to death. And so it's probably thin, wispy, yellow, just has all these symptoms of I'm not about to bloom. I barely leaf, much less bloom. So my guess is we could front load around that plant with some super phosphate, 0,18,0, all phosphorus. Phosphorus, that middle number, nitrogen, phosphorus, potash. Nitrogen causes green growth. Phosphorus is blooms and roots. And potash is more sturdiness, disease, leaf thickness, stems. You load it up with that middle number, phosphorus, and you will get flowers. And we need to be more regular with fertilizing. This is a young plant. It's actively growing. It's going to take more, a teenage boy is going to go in and raid the refrigerator and it's going to be empty but within days. Whereas the 40-something son that comes home, it's fine and he's drinking, Ensure or
at 40
juicing fruits or what. He's not eating Snickers bars and sucking down Spam and eggs and a gallon of milk every day. It's different. Well, young plants eat more than older plants. And I'm predicting you need to be all-purpose plant food 3 times a year minimum. Easter, 4th of July, October. So at Easter, give it this all-purpose plant food, sprinkle it around, do it again at 4th of July, which is when the rains start. Do it again. The most important feeding is October, around Halloween. That's when it's going to use all that food, store it up to encourage flowers next year. That's coming and will help you up your food game.
Okay.
We should mention too.
Yeah.
Food. We just had that one incident of food with one of our good, dear friends, customers, good gardener, regular uses our food, the 744 all-purpose food. They left in the shed, and it was open. And the main ingredient, there's some bone meal, some cottonseed meal. There's different meals, but it's nitrogen, phosphorus, potash. Right. A little bit goes a long ways, but if you just digest all of it, if you plant your plant directly in it, it would vaporize, burn to death. Well, their dog got into and ate it all, a bag, 20, and killed the dog. They had to put it down. It was just poisoned. Be careful with these things, folks. You should not allow access to pesticides to your kids, to your dogs, fertilizer to your kids. Even if it's natural, organic, it is still loaded 7% nitrogen. No matter how you get it, that's not good for you to digest. If they get it in their paws, you spread it in the garden, it's not a big deal. Right. But if the puppy digests the whole bag, that's a hard one to come down to. It just saddens me to have that kind of stuff happen.
Yes, it was.
Another dog got into bone meal.
Right.
It's 0-10-0, but just straight bone meal. But they got into it's chicken, just ground up chicken, bone meal, got it, digested the whole thing, and poison the dog. So just kind of be careful with these things, folks. Don't let your pets have access to these direct access.
Right.
Much less poisons and these other things. So use some care. Bone meal spread across the garden, not a big deal, but when they can digest the whole thing, let's use these with. Just be careful. Just be careful.
I agree. We use those in our yards, and our lab, who's like, he'll eat anything.
Chowhound, yeah, he really will.
If we left a bag down there, boy, he would have that thing plowed through in no time at all. So he's attracted to it. Our Scotty could care less. She would ignore it. But certain dogs are attracted to the smells and the flavors, so we do have to be careful. And it was heartbreaking. I just felt terrible. Yeah. But yeah, we have to be cautious.
Anyway, fertilize your desert willow more. It'll make a difference. We can force that thing to bloom.
Okay. Another fertilizer question real quick. Should you be feeding trees when they're producing fruit? Is it a good time to feed them, or do you wait until they're done?
Ideally, in Arizona, it probably doesn't matter because we have no food in our soil. So what the book says is fertilize them right before they bloom. So usually March, April is when you fertilize them, and bloom and fertilize them right after you harvest. That'd be July, August, somewhere in there is ideal. I would think here because of our lack of rain, our lack of nutrients, I find it doesn't matter, just as long as you're consistent. So I would recommend fertilizing 3 times a year. Again, fruit trees, Easter, 4th of July, and Halloween. I find people don't do that. Even when they say they did it, they didn't do it consistently, evenly enough. So I find you need to fertilize more often because we don't have 8 foot of topsoil like Wisconsin does. We've got 8 millimeters, and that bit was scraped off by the backhoe to make room for your driveway patios and footers. So a lot of us are then we rock it over. Yeah. So nothing will ever live in this soil. And so you need to fertilize more regularly than anywhere else in the country because of how we garden and how our rains are delivered to us, all at once or not at all. And so the main thing, that's why I like natural foods, cottonseed meals and the bone meals, and because they break down very slowly over a long period of time. If you're using Scott's Turf Builder, totally different game. Using a chemical, a petroleum-based product, yes or no. Don't fertilize when it's got fruit on it. But natural foods, don't worry about it. Okay. I think you're okay. Ken and Lisa Lane and the Mountain Gardeners will be right back with a whole lot more.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Lisa here with the plants of the week and our Sunshine Daydream Abelia.
Pink and white flowers continually cover this brightly yellow shrub. Very pretty.
Requires less maintenance than all the other cultivars with a compact, creamy foliage.
At $34, it's a garden designer's dream bloomer that takes heat, wind, and blooms even longer with a bit of midday shade.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love easy perennials love to shop. I grew up in the family business with my 3 sisters, and I've raised 4 of my own kids in the same garden center. Waters isn't just another business in town. This is part of our home, an extension of who we are. My family spends more time here than we do at home. It's basically an extension of our living room. We just have more friends over than most. My name is Lisa Waters Lane, and you'll feel welcomed, peaceful, and at home here at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road, here in Prescott.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
My roses are just looking... Now, I'm a rose gardener, so I love flowers. I'm actually a flower gardener. And if you love flowers, you have to plant some roses. And I've got a lot of dahlias and geraniums and a lot of other things. But if you look at our gardens at home, they're mainly going to be flowers. There's some vegetables, but really I plant those as annuals. They're flowers. I like my prettiest pot. I've got a big pot, maybe 24 inches across. It's huge. It's tall. It's at least above knee high. It's 2 feet tall. I put a squash in it. And then I put trailing or wave petunias out front. And so you have this huge plant. It fills up, the squash plant, big bush, fills the entire structure of this plant, of this container, but then it spills out. It's almost like the petunias are erupting from underneath the squash and overflowing. It's magnificent. I mean, it just looks beautiful. I do that a lot. And so I vegetable garden, but really in amongst my flowers. It's art at its rawest form, true form. Art is imagination, creation, with all the senses. And gardening allows you to have fragrance and sight and sound, and you can touch and feel and taste and smell. You got them all. So it's really the ultimate in art. And that's what I enjoy so much about it. And I had a party to go to, had a place, Lisa and I had some place to be. I had a couple hours beforehand to kind of go in the backyard and just garden, just putz around. I completely lost track of time. That's what I love about it. If you take your phone off of you, just go out and enjoy. It's almost like you get to refresh your soul. It's like you just feel better when you've been hanging out there. So it just makes me feel, but anyway, I go off on the spiritual side, which gardening, there is a natural spiritual connection, soul thing that happens with plants. They are living, breathing things. And I think it's that artistic, creative thing that happens. Whether you're an engineer and you like things perfectly shaped and no weeds and exact corners, that's an art form. There's something to that. That's called a formal garden. There's landscape designers that are famous for their formal gardens. Or if you're just more eclectic, natural, let it all flow, let Darwinism just kind of take over and see which plant survives. There's that too. That's an art that's called informal gardens. There's landscape designers that are famous for their natural or informal gardens. They're all good. There's no right or wrong. There's just creativity and making it beautiful so it interacts with you and your homeowner and your space and makes you feel good. And I think that's a garden. A lot of folks go, I don't know what to do. I'm going, well, what do you like? Well, I like that. I'm going, well, let's do that. Let me show you how to grow it. Let's put that. How can we incorporate more of those things that you like? If your neighbors don't like it, they won't plant that in their yard. Fine. It's your yard and your gardens. Enjoy your space. It should be your personality coming out in those gardens. I think that's okay. So anyway, some things to watch. We did see the first blister beetle show up. They're early. Normally they don't show up till the monsoons, till, a month from now. Really, mid-July to first part of August is when blister beetles start showing up. It's this little beetle about an inch long. They swarm. This came from Chino Valley, so I don't know how bad they are throughout the county yet. I've just seen the leading edge. Just be aware. Mark it on your calendar. Look for this. There's these swarms of beetles that land on your trees or in your garden. They just eat. They strip everything. I mean, they take all the foliage off. It's destruction at its core. I mean, biblical proportions. It is nasty. It is bad. You need to be ready. So I'm seeing that, and it's what we're selling them here. We've got a product called multi-purpose insect spray. It obliterates them. It's not natural. It's a man-made molecule, but it's the same molecule that nature made with crushed mums. So we just found that pyrethrum works better than permethrin. No, permethrin works better than pyrethrum. No, it's the other way. It's like the first way. Anyway, they're the same thing. But the man-made one lasts a little longer on the plant, so the plant, they can digest it. But if you hit a blister beetle with that, or a grasshopper, they are goners, just like that. You keep the birds and the pets out of the area until it's dry, then you should be safe, good to go. So kind of watch that. To be this early, it could be bad. It could be really bad. And with such a mild winter, we had this, usually the cold thins out a lot of these insects. It kills off the eggs. It doesn't allow the adults to winter over with us. But I'm starting to hear that grasshoppers are starting to show up in the outer areas, the valley areas. So that's one, again, leading edge. I'm not sure how bad they'll be, but keep an eye on it. Be ready. You should have something on your shelf ready to go. So when you do see blister beetles, because literally they'll strip your garden within an hour or two. By the time you go to the garden center, get something, come back, the multi-purpose insect spray, they've destroyed everything, flown away and gone to your neighbors, and they're eating their gardens. So blister beetles are out, just kind of a garden alert for you and your gardens. Be right back.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona, with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Ken, with the plants of the week and our native quaking aspen.
Few experiences capture the magic of nature so well as a quaking aspen dancing in the slightest of breeze.
You'll love their unique bark as it shines white with brand new leaves celebrating spring's arrival.
Plant a row along your driveway or simply as a focal point in the yard.
Hand-picked specimens start at under $100, but we have huge showy models as well.
Waters Garden Center, where people who love their quaking aspen, they love to shop.
Ouch! Aw, man, another rock! Hi, I'm Rusty. You know, the shovel you're destroying trying to dig that hole? Sure, I get it. You got these beautiful plants at Waters Garden Center. Waters asked if they could plant them for you. But no, you had to do it yourself, even though they would plant, deliver, and guarantee your plants for 2 years. I hope I don't end up like that old pickaxe. Ouch! Prevent yard tool abuse. Waters Garden Center. They plant, deliver, and guarantee.
Okay, we are back with Lisa Waters-Lane in the studio, and she brings her inspiration section, just an area of something top of mind, something on her heart that she can share that will help us timely get our gardens to look better. So welcome back to the studio, Lisa.
Thank you.
You should be proud.
Yes.
Our boy just light-yeared ahead. He went from second sergeant or something to
Is there a second sergeant?
or whatever that is. He's a sergeant.
Making up stuff.
To first lieutenant. I mean, he passed second and went right to first. He's in the Army. He's at Fort Bliss. He's the PA, physician's assistant. He takes care of a brigade, or he explained it to me. A fourth of all the tank brigade down at Fort Bliss. So 1st Armored Division, like those Abram tanks and all the guys that make those things go, he's their go-to doc, first line of defense, and all the medics that serve underneath him. But he was officially pinned this week, and now he's off to officer training school in Oklahoma or someplace. He's off for 9 weeks, and then he goes tours. He doesn't know where. He's thinking South Korea, but with all the stuff that's going on, he might go to Iraq or Afghanistan. He's not sure where he'll go with his
he
guys.
has to do a deployment.
That's right.
9-month deployment.
Very proud of him.
Yeah.
Wow.
Smart kid. Very
He's
good.
studied hard. He didn't even have a 4-year degree when he went in.
No.
He got in because he did a tour in Afghanistan. His PA, his lieutenant, liked him. He was a medic, fearless, went out, did whatever was told, and he was inspired to apply. You got to have at least 2 years, so many credits. The Army is very organized. So, but he got organized, got letters of recommendation, got in.
On his first try.
The second youngest guy out of hundreds, second youngest person to get in. And in 2 years, you go from medic to he's running
assistant.
Physician's assistant. It's wild. I don't know how he does it.
I don't know. I always knew he had it in him.
He did.
I told him he would.
Yeah. He's one of those. He struggled in college. Went in the Army, has just thrived. So when he gets out, he'll have about 11 years. He's debating, man, PAs make a lot of money out in the field. Do I stay in here? Do I go out there? I'm going, how about if you just do your next 3 years you have to serve, do your tour, and then decide. You can decide later.
But it was wonderful. You think about all the schooling he's had, and he doesn't owe a cent.
That's true.
What a great free of charge.
Yeah, the Army paid him, not just covered the cost. Yeah. They paid him to go to school for 2. Now you live, eat, and breathe. They put a fire hose to your mouth and they turn it full on with information. And if you can't handle that, you're out and you go back to where you came, and you still have to sign up for 6 more years to get in the program, and you're
cleaning toilets.
That's right, for 6 more years. But if you get in, it's like magic. Very proud of him.
Yeah, we are. Good family. And our granddaughters soon to arrive. I can't wait for that one.
A few days now.
Yeah.
Our third grandkid.
Right.
2 sons and 1 girl.
It'll be fun.
Can't wait. I love girls. We raised 3 daughters ourselves, 1 son. And I love daughters. There's something about daughters, and granddaughters are going to be even more fun. I can't wait.
Her name's going to be Emily Rose.
Pretty name.
I like it.
Emily Rose Lane.
Emily Rose. Yeah, we're excited about that one. But I guess we should talk about plants and flowers.
Well, okay, yeah. Enough about us. Moving on to...
I thought we should talk about those shrubs that bloom in the summertime.
Oh, good.
There are a bunch of them that do absolutely beautiful and wonderful color out there in the summertime when you need it. And I went out to go, what do we got? So I'm walking through the nursery yard, and I'm like, I forgot about that, and I wrote that one down. So
good.
There's a lot of them out
Perfect.
there.
And so they're starting to bud right now. So they're not, some are starting to show color, but they're heavily budded.
Right.
They're ready to go. That's a perfect time to plant them. Plant them before they're in bloom, so they wake up in your yard
And you can enjoy
show
them.
off. Yeah, you get the entire bloom cycle.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And of course, roses. I think
Yeah.
probably roses are the queen of the flowering shrubs. There are so many different ones. You can get carpet ones that will stay low. You can get the shrub roses and the drift roses and the tea roses. I mean, there's a rose that will fit any place you need it to in your yard if you need the height or the low. So don't forget about those. I think some people get afraid of them, but don't.
There's so many of them are easy to grow. You probably have 40, 50, 60, I don't know how many varieties out there. It's ridiculous. So many, it's hard to choose.
Right.
Choose by color.
There you
Your
go.
favorite
And
color.
smell.
Super. You go by nose. Let your nose and your eyes do the picking for you.
Right. Another great summer bloomer, it's kind of one of those mid to late summer bloomers, though, is the crepe myrtle.
Yeah.
The thing about crepe myrtles is the bloom on them is just outstanding, so bright, and you can just see them from miles away. You're kind of like, well, what is that? And it's a crepe myrtle. We have the Zuni and the Pecos, which are kind of a dark pink. We have one that is different in that it has purple leaves on it. Most of them are green leaf.
Yeah.
The Midnight Magic actually has a dark purple leaf to it. And the bloom is kind of a lighter purpley pink, but spectacular with that coloring. You just don't see that very often.
It's like a fluorescent lights. You turn them on and it glows. The leaves glow. And then we've got one of those in our backyard. It's about just above knee high. It's starting to bud out. It's been in for a few years. It's beautiful, just perfect.
The other one I like is the Dynamite Red bloom one. And it is a true, wow, look at that red. Sometimes they say red and it's more like a
Salmon.
or it's a pink or something. But this one truly is red. Absolutely gorgeous. Butterfly bush. Who can forget
good.
the butterfly bush? Those come in a multitude of heights and colors as well. So there are some low ones that get about 2 foot tall. Especially, if you don't have a huge yard, it's a great way to use that. The Buzz series, I don't know who came up with that name. Buzz.
It should be shot, yeah.
But they get a guy.
Yeah.
They get about 4 foot tall.
So dwarf
so.
butterfly bush. Normal butterfly bush gets 10, 12 feet. This one's hip high.
Right.
Easy to maintain.
My favorite butterfly bush, and I think we have this in our yard, is the Miss Molly.
Yeah.
I love the color on Miss Molly. It's kind of a fuchsia-y, dark purpley, kind of almost red sometimes. Nice shrub. And that one doesn't get very tall, does it?
No. It stays very short. Yeah.
Right. So multitude of colors. So check those out. And the butterflies like them.
They really
do.
They can't resist them.
Caryopteris. The one we carry is the blue balloon. And I know Caryopteris. Who's going to remember that name?
False spirea.
False
Is
spirea.
the common name for that.
Right. It's a good companion plant for your butterfly bush. Actually, they grow nicely together. They're again about 4 foot by 4 foot. Would you say?
I keep them down around a little lower than that, but you can let them go and get up to that taller size. Yeah.
It's a good pollinator bush too.
Yeah, bees, butterflies, love them. So it's a great little plant and loves full sun, easy, drought hardy. You can't kill those. I mean, you can't run them over with a truck. They'll still come back and grow for you. So false spirea or Coreopteris.
Right.
It's a lot of syllables.
The one we have is called Blue Balloon. Say that 3 times fast. But really pretty color on it. Rose of Sharon. That's another one. Everyone should have a Rose of Sharon in their yard. Really pretty drought hardy once they're established. Not a lot.
Kind of like a
gets
rose
into them.
in that
They
respect. Yeah.
And they're in multitudes of colors. We have a real pretty one out there called Diana right now, which is a pure white one, which I like to use white in the yard sometimes because it truly does stand out, especially when you got a lot of green. That white can really just kind of pop and draw your eye over. We have one called Blushing Bride. That's a double, kind of a blushy pink color. Pretty little double one to it. And then we also have Helene, which is white with a red center. So very attractive on those.
People don't, a lot of the California, Hawaii, desert folks, Palm Springs, they want the tropical hibiscus to grow up here, and it just doesn't winter over for us.
Right.
But the Rose of Sharon is a hardy hibiscus. Its Latin name is hibiscus, Rose of Sharon, and it will winter over for us. The flower is it's small. It's only about 5 inches across, and so that normal tropicals are as big as your hand. This is smaller, but it makes up for it in sheer volume. Literally, they can load up with so many flowers, they just want to fall to the ground. They're so covered in flowers. So Rose of Sharon's a great plant for the mountains of Arizona at all elevations. Well, Lisa, great summer blooming shrubs available to plant, and they prefer being planted in the summer because they like the heat here at Waters Garden Center. We'll be right back.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
As the days get longer and brighter, houseplants can struggle and scorch, but we have the solution.
At Waters, we've organized our houseplants from A to Z for the brightest of sunny locations, many even bloom.
With experts that know plants and how to make them grow.
Shipments of the freshest houseplants in town have just arrived from A to Z and ready for a bright new home.
Waters Garden Center, where people who love bright green houseplants, they love to shop. Found in Prescott. New to the area with your dream home on the inside, but surrounded by boring? A castle surrounded by rock is just so bland. But we can help.
At Waters, we have a team of plant experts ready to dress up and decorate even the most boring of landscapes with something fresh, new, and evergreen.
Plus, we deliver and plant for you.
Designer plants with the experts to help you beautify your new abode.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott. All right, we are back with the Mountain Gardener. And I've got a special guest in the studio, someone that's really smart. I was talking to Jim Roop with Monrovia. He grows some of the finest plants in America, but definitely in Arizona. And they're our go-to people for quality, consistency, and knowledge. And so Jim and I were chatting out in the shrub and the privacy screen area. And so I went, Jim, this is good stuff. We got to capture this. You got to share this with listeners throughout northern Arizona. They need to know this stuff. The building boom is on, and people are looking for screens. They want to block their neighbors. They want to be in the hot tub and not think about their neighbors. They want to eat a barbecue and not have their neighbors peering over or softening that fence. It's only a 5-foot fence. I wish it was 6. So they're looking for plants that will grow fast, be thick, that you can't see through, and Jim he's a wealth of knowledge. So Jim Roop, thanks for being here in the studio. Glad you're here.
Great, thank you.
So screening plants, you guys grow a lot. And I think 2 things we could share with listeners that they would really benefit. Broadleaf evergreens, the big ones, the things that grow fast and thick and full and above head height. And then maybe touch on for us too what are maybe some really good upright evergreens, like junipers and cypress and cedars. And then how do you design with those? How do you plant those to get the most growth and the thickest, fullest screen?
Well, one of my favorite screens is for that medium height screen that's going to get, like you say, a little bit above head height is the silverberry, the Elaeagnus.
Yeah, sure.
You know, there's the green, the silverberry, the green leaf one. It's unbelievable fragrance when it blooms too. That's just true. So sweet. It's weird because you don't see the flower. It's hidden inside the plant, but you're just bewildered. Where is this awesome smell coming from?
It smells better, I think, than even Daphne or lilac. I mean, those are very fragrant.
It's like a gardenia, really.
Yeah, that's good.
We can't grow gardenias here for the most part, but that one has a smell like a gardenia. So I love that plant. And then I call it its cousin, is the gilt edge silverberry, which has that very bright contrasting green and yellow foliage to it. Mm-hmm. And that one is it's showy. You know, it's like you want color, but it doesn't bloom, but it's got a lot of striking color with that. There's some plants that have good variegation, some have bad variegation, and I think that Elaeagnus gilt edge I call it a very good variegation. And you have some planted in your front driveway there, and they're striking. They're beautiful.
We hardly care for those.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's once they get rooted, I actually turn it off of the irrigation. I'll fold that drip emitter back, tape it off, so that if I ever needed to, I could water it again. I never have, but it's a native. It's xeriscape kind of plant.
Yep.
It's a wild variety. Yours isn't. You're the variegated one. What's the name of that one? The variegated?
Gilt Edge.
Gilt Edge Silverberry is striking, but it's equally as hardy as the native blue one that just grows wild around.
And everything seems to leave it alone. I don't ever notice many deer bothering it or anything like that. And it's very drought tolerant too. And
well, in the front, we've got javelina. I've got a herd of – the fence is not to keep people out here at Waters Garden Center. It's to keep all the animals because we have that wildland interface that you can go to the forest right from here. So they all come down to see if we left the gates open, I think.
Yeah.
And so it's outside the fence. No worries, no problems at all. I've got one at home. The Gilt Edge grows up. It's about head high. I've got a 6-foot cedar fence. I wanted to soften it because it's dark. And I wanted this bright spot. And it's grown up to the height of the fence easily. Now I just give it a haircut. And it's getting fuller and fuller and fuller. So what do you think? 6-7 feet tall by 4 foot wide
I
or so?
wouldn't be surprised if it even approaches close to 8 eventually.
Yeah.
It's with proper care, especially in the beginning, ample water and the all-purpose fertilizer, they grow surprisingly fast. So
now you grow the nicest, I'm not kidding with this, the perfect red tip photinia. I bring yours in because they're perfectly shaped, they're tall, they're full, and they'll outsell the contractor grade, kind of thin, wispy, cheaper one. Yours always sells better, but deer and it's not native. The deer come after them some, they get some mildew. They're nice. We sell a lot of them, but I think the silverberry is a far better choice because it's native and the animals leave it alone. It's got a fragrance to it.
I would
agree. I think it's better.
Yeah, overall, and it's not as bothered by the soil. The alkaline soil sometimes bothers the photinia.
True.
Possibly.
Yeah, they turn yellow on you or something.
Yeah, but proper fertilizing, you can counter that easily. But yeah, I think it's an easier, better suited plant for our area.
I would agree.
Yeah.
So what else? How else do we screen? People are wanting to block their neighbors out, or they're that construction or the contractor that's dumping his leftovers.
Well, then from there we can kind of go maybe to some of the taller, like the conifer stuff. Like, Spartan juniper is one of my favorites.
Sure.
Real dark green foliage, and that'll grow up to 12, 15 feet, and stays fairly narrow too, which is kind of nice. And yeah, that's
what about
one of my
allergies, though? Do people always complain about junipers and allergies? Have we figured out how to hybridize that out or breed that out so much?
Not that I know of.
No?
But I don't think, I think the allergies are more with some of the native junipers, though.
It's true, yeah.
Than things like the Spartan juniper, the Wichita blue. Not saying they, won't or can't cause, allergies, but they're not near as prolific in their pollen. And I think it's more from just all the native, because we have so many,
forests.
Arizona cypress and junipers here. They're just everywhere. So I think that's really the main culprit as far as the allergies go.
I think they get a bad rap sometimes just because, it's a smaller juniper. So it gets tall, 10 to 15 feet tall, and narrow. So the surface on it just it can't produce pollen like that huge alligator juniper in your neighborhood, or shaggy bark that just one male tree can fill the entire neighborhood with pollen by itself.
Yeah.
So
I think another neat one is, bounce this off you, is maybe the Pinus monophylla, the single leaf pinion pine.
Sure.
I really like that one. It's fast growing. It's native to parts of the lower Rockies. It's not quite like our slower growing one we have here, the Pinus edulis. But the single leaf pinion pine, it's got a larger needle to it and much, much faster grower. So it's, that's kind of the problem with the pinion pines, plant one and wait 30 years till its head height. But the single leaf grows actually fairly quick. And so I think that is a good possibility for
that's a
screen
great
too.
idea. Now give us dimensions on that. How tall and how thick is that going to be?
Well, it's special in its earlier years. It's going to probably shoot up to 20, 25 feet
Okay.
pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then as it ages out, it will broaden out to a wider, 10, 15 feet, more like a tree.
And remind me, that's the one they actually get the pinyon pine nut from. That's the one they use because it ages faster and it has that buttery pinyon nut.
Yeah, well, they harvest the native one too, and
Okay.
these are. This one does have an edible nut to it as well.
Yeah.
But I recommend this one to people because it's just faster growing. And
Sure.
I think it's an attractive pine too.
It's got that beautiful blue, which is so
Yeah.
unusual for a pinyon pine. All the ones here are green, and then it's got that chubby needle. And I find it's less prone to scale.
Yeah, I was
that
just going to
insect.
say that. Yes,
Much
Yeah.
less prone.
Yeah.
And I think it'll take the wind out in the valley areas like Dewey, Paulden, Chino Valley, the high ridge lines. It's going to take that wind and block it, even at the size because it's a chaparral plant. It's used to that kind of juniper, manzanita, pinyon pine kind of interface. I think we need to plant more of those out in the Prescott Valley, Wilhoit, these areas
Yeah.
that are just exposed to the wind more. I think it'll adapt.
It's one of those, top 10 underused plants. And, I think
that's a good way
so.
to describe it.
Yeah.
And it's a native. I mean, once it gets up to size, I would cut it off of all water. Can I be that bold? And then fertilize it sporadically.
Yeah, no, it can go on its own once it's established. So.
Two natives, silverberry, native shrub, thick, full thing, if you want a broadleaf, and the pinyon pine, single leaf pinyon pine, right?
Yep.
Edula, is that what you call it? Pinus edula?
Monophylla.
Monophylla.
Yeah,
I'm
single.
Got up my game on the Latin. There we go. So both are available here at Waters Garden Center now. You'll find them at the Garden Center. Now's a good time to plant screening plants. Be right back with more on The Mountain Gardener.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Lisa with the plants of the week and our Tiger Eye Sumac.
You can't kill this native plant, and it's so fancy.
Chartreuse foliage quickly develops into lacy yellow leaves, which contrast nicely with the posy pink stems. All this turns the color of orange peels through autumn.
A dramatic focal point when planted as an accent at the edge of ponds and dry creek beds, all for just $39.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love fancy native plants love to shop. I grew up in the family business with my 3 sisters, and I've raised 4 of my own kids in the same garden center. Waters isn't just another business in town. This is part of our home, an extension of who we are. My family spends more time here than we do at home. It's basically an extension of our living room. We just have more friends over than most. My name is Lisa Waters Lane, and you'll feel welcomed, peaceful, and at home here at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road, here in Prescott.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
I grow tomatoes. I love tomatoes. I grow tomatoes in pots. Grow them in raised beds. I got several varieties, some exotic, some of my core favorites. But one thing that you really need to watch on tomatoes, watch for any leaf that turns yellow, spotted, any damage at all. Basically, tomatoes are sugar factories. They just they just take in the sun, create sugars, and just make fruit. Part of that is everything likes to eat tomatoes, not just you and I, including bacteria and diseases and fungus and all kinds of stuff. And if a tomato runs across the ground and touches the ground, and there's anything there, it will catch it. So things will start eating on the leaves. So for me, I try to use cages to keep my foliage off the ground. And then even then, as the soil splashes or comes up, it's still those bottom leaves get yellow, they get stained, they get any damage at all. I'm very diligent at picking those leaves off. I really don't want that. And then second, That just helps me keep consistent, vigorous tomato plants because they produce more. The other one to watch is tomatoes are very heavy feeders. I mean, they love regular food all the time. Consistency. They like consistent water, consistent. I've gone over some of that in past shows, but basically right now for my own tomatoes, once a week I'm spraying them with Blossom Set. There's a clear spray. I spray the foliage, so it causes the plant to slow down and set more blossoms, more fruits. 1 week I'll spray that. The next week I spray my tomato plants with Rot Stop, R-O-T, Stop. It's again a liquid. I'm spraying the foliage. So I'm spritzing my plants once a week. I alternate with these two products, Blossom Set, Rot Stop. Rot Stop is calcium. And so it eliminates a blossom end rot, and it increases my fruit size, and the flavor I find is better. So once a week I'm doing that, and then I fertilize. Actually, in my watering can, I'll add some Flower Power. It's a liquid fertilizer, and I just give my tomato plants, actually my edible plants, actually my flowering, fruiting plants, a couple times a month I'll give it some Flower Power, and man, are they green? Are they setting blooms? Are they setting fruits? It is actively, you can watch them grow almost by the day, definitely by the week. So that's Rot Stop, Blossom Set, Flower Power. I know I covered a lot in like 3 minutes or less, but if you need help, if you're struggling, come talk to us. We've got displays, we've got things that explain that, and experts that know how to make things bloom and fruit. So we also have a class on that coming up. Let me see if I can pull that up. I think the end of June we have, I think June 30. Let me see if I can get that. Here we go. So watersgardencenter.com. Very front, very first page, right there with that moving video of the nursery. You can see a drone shot of the entire nursery. watersgardencenter.com. You'll see June 30th, totally tomatoes. We'll cover all of this and then some. I mean, you better bring notepad and pen because you are going to be fast and furious taking notes that will make a difference right now in your gardens. But how to grow better edibles, June 30th. The classes start next week. Believe it or not, we took a break for spring because our garden center just can't take on that much volume, a class, and all the customers. But starting mid-June, June 16th, I'm going to teach Firewise landscaping, how to have a beautiful landscape that is also safe if we happen to have a wildfire. The entire class schedule is up there at watersgardencenter.com. Right at the front, you see a big class schedule, always on Saturday, always at 9:30. They're always free. Different speakers come in and speak. Until next week, Lisa and I camp out here at Waters Garden Center. Come visit. Say hi.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
I used to be cocky and actually dared to beat the big boxes at their own game. Since the beginning, we were known for the very best plants in town. But with youthful ambition, we added a line of inferior plants, contractor grade, that matched the box stores and beat their prices. We failed miserably. The plants were side by side. Waters hand-picked quality at the higher price and the inferior plants at the lower price with astounding results. The inferior plants, not bad quality, just not full and nice, were still there a month later. The hand-picked quality plants, they had been restocked twice and the bench was empty again. The youthful cockiness, it's tempered, and with age comes wisdom and knowing who you really are. Waters Garden Center doesn't compete with the marts and the boxes. We simply grow the very best plants our family is famous for. We will never offer inferior plants. Cross my heart. Pinky swear. Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road, here in Prescott.
You've been listening to local garden expert Ken Lane, the owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join him each week as he answers timely garden questions unique to the area. He can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center, located in Prescott at 1815 Iron Springs Road. Thanks for tuning in to The Mountain Gardener.